and
Oddworld.
Hey oddballs, I'm your host Jensen, and welcome to episode 91. So here's the tea, and the tea is just on myself, mostly because I'm tattling on myself. But if some of you notice that I am on social media a lot, and then all of a sudden I just kind of disappear for a little bit, that's just who I am as a person. I have just come to find out that that's literally who I am as a person. Sometimes I just need a break, and I think everybody should embrace a break from social media because your brain will feel so much better. And thank you for a little break. And I know what I'm doing, having a podcast and all that. Yes, I should be on social media. However, it's nice to have a break, and it's okay. And I think we should embrace that. But anyhow, point is if you don't see me on Instagram is where I'm mostly at. But if you don't see me on there for a really long time and then all of a sudden I'm posting a whole lot, it's just because I'm taking another little break. That's just kind of what I do. And it's really good for my brain. So you will always have new episodes. Don't worry about that. But no, I think I'm always going to be taking a break here and there from social media. And it's just going to happen when I feel like I need it. I don't feel like I need to explain myself anymore. So anyhow, let's get into the episode. Today, we're actually going to be learning about a Chinese Zodiac. And let's get into it.
Zodiac.
I'm into that.
Today's Chinese Zodiac is the sheep. Sheep, goat, or ram is among the animals that people like the most. It is docile, mellow, and timid. The white, cute creature often reminds people of beautiful things. In Chinese culture, the sheep is considered auspicious since a long time ago, and it was often used to offer sacrifices and pray for good fortune. It was also once served as currency in ancient times, and thus, the sheep represents rich and lucky. People born in the year of the sheep are gentle, calm, and decent, while sometimes they can be naive and emotional. You are a sheep if you were born in the year of 2027, 2015, 2003, 1991, 1979, 1967, 1955, 1943, 1931, and 1919. And then in order to get any future numbers or past numbers, for future you will add 12, and then for past numbers you will just minus 12. And there you go. It's kind of messed up, but now thinking about it, the fact that sheep it straight up says to offer sacrifices. And all I can think of is really bad rituals that sacrifice sheep. I don't know, things that you would see in the movie or something. And seeing as sheep are actually for good fortune, it's kind of sad and pathetic that we use the sheep as a sacrifice, as a bad sacrifice. And I know that it's not I'm fairly certain that it's not sacrifice as in, oh, we're gonna sacrifice and a sacrifice. I'm not gonna go into details, but I don't know. Anyhow, if you are a sheep, let me know and let's move on to stories.
This comes from udugigvdi on Reddit.
I spent my early 20s traveling a ton. I worked part-time with an imported car company that did shows all over the South. Several times a year, I would drive from Florida to Kentucky, Tennessee to Georgia, all over the place. Often these trips, I would end up taking some strange country or county roads to avoid highways early in the morning. The worst drive of my life. 3 things happened that I can't explain. This hellacious road trip was probably around 2016. The first happened around 1 a.m. My GPS tells me to take the most sudden exit onto a side road off the interstate. It's nothing but farmland and trees. but my GPS swears it's a shortcut. I'm cruising for 5 minutes or so when an old Mustang pulled up behind me, flashing their lights. They rode my bumper for about 15 minutes, but there was nowhere to pull off in the middle of the countryside. They revved up, and I thought they were finally going to pass me, being as there was no oncoming traffic. We were the only ones on the road for miles. But the car never passed me. I physically turned my head to check my blind spot, and the car was gone. There was no turnoff area for them to have pulled over. It just straight up disappeared. When I got back on the interstate, 30 minutes had passed, but I was right back at the same exit I had taken to get off. I had been on a long, straight dark road for 30 minutes and ended up exactly where I had started. A couple hours pass, and I'm now 10 hours into my drive and only 2 hours from my home. I turn off the interstate onto a county road that leads to the highway my house was on. It was a local shortcut I had taken many times, only about 2 cities over from my own. It was a little after 3 a.m. I go for a cigarette to keep me awake on the last leg of the ride, and my lighter runs out. As I'm fixing to put the cigarette back in the pack, I pass a poorly lit gas station. Perfect! I pulled into the parking lot and decided to fill up. While I'm at the pump, I noticed inside there are 2 people. An old Meemaw looking woman in a muumuu at the register, and a big old redneck fella in overalls in the aisle. They're facing each other like they're in a conversation, but neither of them are moving. I make my way cautiously inside and approach the register looking for a Bic lighter. I didn't see any, so I asked the woman at the front if she had any. She looked at me like I was from Mars. I tried to explain I just wanted a lighter for my cigarettes, and she goes, "Oh, I have matches if that's what you're looking for." She hands me a box of matches and does charge me for them. I thank her and turn to leave when I realize the man in the overalls still hasn't moved, but I can feel him watching me. I'm 19 or 20 years old and 125 pounds soaking wet at this point in my life. The hair on the back of my neck is standing straight up, and my brain is yelling at me to get the hell out of there. I quickly make it to my car, and the exact moment I turn on my engine, every light in the gas station goes off. Inside, outside, the pumps, the street light. It's pitch black except for my headlights. My tires squealed as I tore out of the parking lot so fast. I kept that box of matches for years to solidify in my mind that that experience actually happened. Every time I went back to that county road, I searched for that gas station and never saw it again. At this point, I'm not 45 minutes away from the state line and an hour from my comfy bed. I am freaked out and beyond exhausted. I had been up for 2 days and could go cross-eyed. I had been staring at the road for so long. I'm still on the same road, but I'm a long way from the gas station, and I'm still trying to put it out of my mind, when all of a sudden I see blue lights behind me. Now, my father was a police officer for 26 years. I remember the year police card went from old school rotation lights to the new LED light bars, and behind me was an old school rotating light. It was too dark to see what kind of car they sat on. I just saw blue. I luckily had a friend who was a sheriff deputy a couple cities over, and I called him, knowing he worked night shifts and would still be awake. I asked him if he knew of any departments that still use these old lights, and he told me no one in the entire state has them. He told me to keep driving until I saw a public spot to pull over, but absolutely not to stop on the dark side of the road. I drove for a solid 30 minutes, keeping my friend on the phone with me, the blue lights trailing behind me the whole way. I finally hit the crossroad where the county road meets the highway. I'm almost 20 minutes from my house. I pulled into a very well-lit gas station at the intersection. A gas station that I stopped at almost daily on my way to work and felt very comfortable at. The blue lights behind me suddenly cut off, and the car sped off too fast for me to get the license plate or a good description. I went inside the gas station, bought a Red Bull, and a pack of smokes from the little lady at the gas station whose familiar face and friendly smile felt like a warm welcome back to reality. I got home that morning and checked all my doors several times before falling asleep. Soon after, I quit traveling with the car show. To this day, I hate driving by myself. I always bring a friend or my dog on the long road trips. And no matter what my GPS says, I stay on the highways and interstates. I have only told this story to 2 or 3 people over the years, in fear of people not believing me. I still swear I fell into a time warp, or maybe the Twilight Zone. I'm now married to my police officer friend, and he very clearly remembers that night, as he was the one on the phone with me several times throughout the night. We've only talked once about it. I don't have many words except for what the fuck. My brain can't comprehend all the things that happened to you. First of all, you wind up on some back road, end up back at where you started, but in between that, you have an experience of a Mustang chasing you, basically. Like what? Is this a ghost Mustang trying to chase you off the road? Because that's my thought. And then you get back to the highway, you feeling okay, not really okay, spooked out. Then you go to another back road thing. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing wrong with back roads. I come from a small town and we have back roads, so I'm familiar with that. However, the fact that you are pulling up to a gas station that is poorly lit, for one, spooky. For two, the lady has a moo-moo and she's an older lady, and this guy is like some hillbilly guy, and she doesn't even know what a lighter is because she's obviously not from this era, and she gives you matches, but it's the poorly lit gas station, and the moo-moo for some reason is feeling like Resident Evil to me, because I also feel like this is like, I don't know, some freaking backwoods scary stuff. But okay, so either you stepped back in time somehow, or maybe this gas station really did exist there and it burned down, and every full moon or every anniversary it pops back up. I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of it in my brain because it's wild. That one freaks me out the most. The last one, honestly, could be what this person was saying, and how they could have stepped back in time and this police that was chasing them had these old lights instead of the new LED ones. I don't know. Maybe maybe they were in some time warp. But also my thought was maybe it's someone pretending to be a police officer and they have no idea. You know what I'm saying? Because people do that, and that is scary. Also highly illegal, so I don't recommend that. But anyhow, that was my only thought, because if they followed you all the way to the gas station and they realized that you pulled in to a very well lit, luckily, gas station, and they just sped off, that to me seems a little suspicious as far as it being a real person and trying to pull you over. So I don't know what you experienced, but it feels like a bunch of chaos and crazy shit, and I'm sorry because that's scary as hell. But to me, the first one feels like a ghost, the second one feels like a time warp, and the third one feels like a real ass person who is out there doing bad things, and they realized they were going to get caught because you pulled into somewhere well lit, and then they were like, shit, and they drove off. That's my analysis. That is my explanation for you. And I would really like to know what everybody else's opinion is. Let me know. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the next story.
This comes from Daletha on Reddit.
I just had a funny experience the other evening. When I was young, I moved in with my then boyfriend. We rented an apartment in an older building. There, I had my first encounter with something paranormal. After my boyfriend went to bed, I would often stay up to read or watch TV. 2 or 3 times, I suddenly heard an old man breathing. It was clearly an older male. It sounded almost exactly like my grandfather breathing. I didn't want to believe that it was something paranormal. So I went to turn off the TV to see if the sound was coming from that. It wasn't on. I opened the door to see if it was the downstairs neighbor who was snoring. I checked the heater for sounds and went to the bedroom to listen to my boyfriend breathing. It wasn't any of these things. I didn't find the source, and then I went to bed. Then, a couple of nights ago, I suddenly heard breathing in our living room. My first thought was, it's found me. After 30 years. Then I realized that my boyfriend didn't take the baby monitor with him when he went to bed. Okay, this one was kind of refreshing in a weird way. Like, I understand the first half was paranormal, but the second half was just the baby monitor, and that is just hilarious and refreshing at the same time, because after that first story, I needed like a little break. But this just proves obviously that everything is not paranormal, which I mean, I already know like everything is not paranormal. I like to debunk as much as possible, but it's nice. It's nice to hear people like laugh kind of at themselves or at the situation because they thought something was paranormal, but then it turned out to not be paranormal. Also, while I was reading that story, right at like the intense part of it, if you want to call it that, funny little thing, my mom, sister, her kid, and my kid are upstairs, and I'm getting to record. Well, my sister thought it would be funny to walk outside and knock on my window while I'm recording, and she scared the hell out of me. So 2 or 3 times, you whore! Yeah, you got me. I think I had a heart attack. Something always happens when I record. It's either paranormal or it's not. And I think this last story is just perfect. It just describes what happens in my life. It's either paranormal or it's not. But anyhow, I want to know what your guys' opinions are. If you have a paranormal story, let me know. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And well, it's an odd world after all.
Oddballs. Go follow us on It's an Odd World After All podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Also, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you have a story you would like to share, email us at itsanOddWorldAfterAll@gmail.com or message us on one of our social platforms. Don't forget to share us with your family and friends. And check out our website, itsanOddWorldAfterAll.com.